Robot mowers are the latest trend in lawn care, but they can be expensive. Today I'm testing a mower from Smonet, and it represents a huge value in the robot mower space. I'm going to unbox it and show you how to set it up. Then I'm going to mow my yard with it, and you can see for yourself what kind of job it does. Finally, I'm going to give you a quick list of pros and cons and give you a recommendation on who should buy this mower. The Smonet mower is new this year, and no, it's not just some random robot lawnmower from Amazon. You can buy this thing locally at Home Depot. Value is the name of the game, and this low price option competes with other products in the space that are 3 to 5 times as expensive. Everything you need comes in this medium-sized box, and it's not terribly heavy either. Sifting through the contents of the box, we have all kinds of goodies. A spool of boundary wire is used to set the task area. You also get various cables for the charging dock and screws to hold it to the ground. A few extra razor blades to keep things sharp are always nice. The 2 long nails are also used to secure the charging dock to the ground. The charging dock itself has terminals on the back to connect the wires, and the placement of the dock is important. Half the charger sits outside the task area, and that's marked with a picture of a house. And the other half sits inside the mow zone. That's marked with a picture of grass. This is seriously one of the easiest robot mowers to set up. After debating a little bit on where I'd place my charger, I chose this spot. You really just need a flat area somewhere near an outlet. The charger cord connects by screwing together, and it's all rubber sealed too, so moisture shouldn't be a problem. When I say close to an outlet, the cord is actually pretty long. And extension cords exist, so you really don't have to be that close to an outlet. The boundary wire comes into play next, and the manual has some spacing suggestions when dealing with specific situations. It comes with this measuring stick, so you can place the wire far enough away from objects to allow the mower to turn around. The wire is staked into the ground with plastic spikes that you tap in with a hammer. It's surface mounted, so installation is fast and easy with no digging or burying required. Once the grass grows up around the installed wire, it's really hard to see and tell that it's there at all. On the more affordable robot mowers, they almost all run off of a boundary wire. When you start to spend more money on those higher end robot mowers, that's when robots start ditching the boundary wire for things like GPS and LiDAR. Those systems for navigating work great too, but they come at a cost. With my boundary wire laid out, I can make the connections at the charger. I use a wire strippers to strip about 1/2 inch off the ends to make the connections into the terminal. Like I mentioned earlier, the charging dock straddles the task area and the wire runs up the middle. 1/2 is outside the boundary closest to the house. The other side is inside the boundary, and it has a picture of grass so you don't mess it up. I highly recommend making all your wire connections before securing the charging station to the ground. It's just easier. Once all the connections are made, the charger can be secured with 4 screws and 2 nails. After that's done, go ahead and plug it in. Well, I'd say it's about time to start mowing, but before we get there, I gotta tell you about how to control the robot. The mower is controlled by buttons on the top, or by my preferred method, the app. The app can do all kinds of cool stuff, and it's fairly straightforward to use. You can adjust the height of the cut from 30 millimeters up to 70 millimeters, or just over an inch to just under 3 inches in freedom unit. You can decide what direction you want to mow, parallel, perpendicular, or both. You can also set up a schedule so the Smonet will mow whenever you want it to. No action required by you. And since rain is probably going to happen at some point, not only is the Smonet waterproof, but it has a built-in rain sensor that you can configure in the app. When it senses rain, the robot will return to the charger and wait for it to pass. All mowing operations start with a lap around the perimeter for mapping. If this is your first mow ever, it's a chance to see if you've laid out your boundary wire correctly with the appropriate spacing away from objects. Now, if you do things rushed and your measurements are more like guesstimates, you might see this message pop up like I did. My boundary wire was too close to something and the robot couldn't get by. I adjusted where the boundary wire was sitting, and after that, I got a successful mapping. After the mapping lap is complete, the Smonet just starts to mow by making passes across the task area. The robot uses intelligent path planning, and what they mean by that is that it mows in relatively straight lines. Older robot mowers would randomly bounce around the task area until eventually the whole area was covered, like a Roomba vacuum or something. Not Smonet though. It tries to mow in a back and forth striped pattern. This feature mostly works. However, the robot doesn't have enough tech for perfect navigation, so sometimes the lines are a bit angled and overlap each other just a tad. The cut is actually really nice, and while you won't get perfectly lined stripes, the end result looks pretty good. You're probably wondering how the Smonet mower avoids obstacles such as trees. Well, it doesn't have a fancy camera, GPS, LiDAR, or radar, so it relies on a fairly low-tech method of ramming into stuff. It knows when it bumps into things, and when that happens, it adjusts and tries to get around the object. If it bumps again, it adjusts again and tries once more to get around the object. This method works okay, but I've had it get hung up on the base of a tree because exposed roots triggered the lift sensor. I've also had it get snagged on some landscape lights, but boy, it really tried its hardest to get out of that one before giving up. Now that you've kind of seen how this robot works, I gotta give you the list of pros and cons. Number one on the pro list is price. The price is a big advantage here, and comparing the cut and capability of this machine, it costs enough to not be a total pile of junk, but at the same time, it's a lot cheaper than a lot of other robot lawnmowers. Secondly, this robot is stupid easy to use. From setup to actually getting the app up and running, it's one of the easiest robots to get mowing. Setup really is pretty simple, and staking the wire will take the longest to do, but it's not that bad, and the software runs great. It's fairly intuitive, and it's just designed really well. From when you open the box to the time you actually start mowing, it's a very short period. The third pro on the list is cut quality. The finished results look really nice. The cut is even and flat, and the height adjustment is set through the app and has a decent range from really short to a more medium length cut. Now here's what I don't like about the Smonet mower. Number one is the boundary wire. It's very limiting based on what kind of obstacles you have in your yard. Yes, it will bounce off hard objects within the task zone like trees, but if you had a garden or something without a defined raised edge, it'll plow right through that. Secondly, it takes a really long time to mow. Because it lacks some of the higher end positioning systems, the back and forth passes aren't always that accurate. When it first starts mowing, everything works great and it makes steady progress moving fairly quickly. As it gets into the 80% completion range though, it takes longer to navigate the unmowed areas and it spends a lot of time making laps around the perimeter to find those passes that haven't been gone over yet. The third thing I don't like is the limited size capacity. This mower is really designed for a max of about 10,000 square feet or about a quarter of an acre. So it's really geared towards a smaller yard. Now, of course, I had to test this and I used the entire roll of boundary wire to map out an area that was much larger than the recommended size capacity, just to see what happens. Well, the robot got kind of disoriented and it ended up taking a really long time and it never actually completed a mow with the larger map size. So Smonet really isn't kidding when they say about a quarter of an acre. So who should buy one of these robots from Smonet? Well, if you have a large complicated yard like I do, it might not be the best fit. That being said, there are parts of my yard in the back that I hate mowing because the spaces are tight with trees, and I'm probably going to set up the robot back there, set the schedule to mow twice a week, and forget about it. And that's the main benefit with a system like this. Set it and forget it. If you have a smaller yard, you don't like the weekly task of keeping up on mowing, this robot might be just what you're looking for. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you like this video, maybe subscribe to the channel. And hey, thanks for watching.